The world was dying before you were born. Your parents thought your life would be better than theirs, yet their quest to meet flawed expectations doomed it. I'm Brad Jarvis, and I grew up in the 1960s when there was a lot of hope for the future. At that time, the Vietnam War was going on. Here in the US, there were protests, but there was also the space program. I was in my preteens when the first moon landing occurred, and I had great hope for a future where the exploration of space would dominate and humanity would continue to grow and thrive. And I became a fan of engineering and science, later made a career out of it. That hope was dashed when I was in college in the late 70s and early 80s as the Cold War continued to rage, and I became aware that the space program was doomed to a much less uh, visionary future than what we hoped. Um, my parents did think that my life would be better than theirs. For a while, it was roughly equivalent to that, but it became clear after I graduated college and got into industry and began to forge a career of my own that there were a lot of flaws in the system that I was part of. Business that my father and I worked on together to try to help educate students to think for themselves and develop an awareness of the world and an approach to the world that would help them to create the kind of lives that they wanted was becoming harder and harder to attain, in part because technology was taking over and reducing the need for thinking for themselves. And it became a lot easier to rely on those machines than it was to try to forge an understanding of the world that was ideally their own. The expectations of growth, continued growth, that my parents' generation grew up with and passed along to my generation was becoming less and less likely to um, yield positive results that offset the increasingly visible negative results. Now, a few generations later, that fear is being realized. And as a man in my 60s now, I feel compelled to follow the path once again that my dad tried to follow when I was in my 20s and saw a lot of these things coming to try to once again try to help the current generation and the younger generations to follow that path. My personal deviation from the path was educational, but I was unable to um, follow that course exclusively. I don't regret what happened in between. It taught me a lot, but now, as I'm seeing those visions of a uh, deteriorating future coming true, I feel compelled to devote more and more time to helping the current generation and uh, the younger ones to try to make that future a little bit less daunting than what I see and what many others are starting to see. A start is to deal with reality. Well, much of my effort uh, has been attempting to simulate the future and the past. That is merely a tool. It's not reality. It's a tool for understanding and potentially dealing with the reality that it represents and the reality that might possibly be generated in the future. The real work is going to be creating a reality that we want. And to do that, we have to come to an agreement about what that future is going to be like and then look at what it will take to create it or come as close as possible to creating it. That is the essence of what I believe we all need to do, and we need to do it quickly. So, while you may be the last generation that can experience what previous generations hoped for you, you have the ability, and I would say the duty, to create your own vision of a future that you can live with and deal with what's real around you and try to come as close as possible to that. But barring that, at least being able to meet your needs and help others meet their needs so that the future can be as positive as possible, as close to the way you want to live and other people want to live as you can make it. And I'm here to do whatever I can to help you with that.